Good morning. Welcome to Compass, where our mission is navigating people to God. I'm so glad you're here at our Compass North Richland Hills campus. And my name is Brock. I'm the Colleyville High School pastor at Compass. And you came on the right week, Student Takeover weekend. Maybe you've seen students serving or greeting you as you walked in or serving communion on stage. Let's just give them a hand. There's a lot of work that goes into that. We're excited. And it's only fitting that Student Takeover weekend falls on our Stranger Things series, right? Not because students are stranger things, but because they are the strangest things, right? You feel that way? You just sometimes you don't understand them. There's things happening in their heads and on their bodies. It's just like, I don't know what's going on with students. So it's only fitting. And sometimes we don't know what to do with strange things or strange people, right? And so have you ever noticed that we kind of live in a throwaway or a walk away type of culture? So my wife, Hannah, and I, we moved here in February, and that's my wife, Hannah, on our wedding day. And we moved here from Illinois, and we packed up our two-bedroom apartment in Lincoln, Illinois, and fit it all into a little U-Haul, and we moved it all to Texas, where we unloaded it at a storage unit, and we fit it all into that little storage unit while we looked for a place here. But it was just, there was that moment when we got halfway down the road on our trip, and everything's in our U-Haul, and like, it's Hannah and I in the truck, and it's like, okay, this is it. Like, we're going. Like, we just left a ton of people. This is all the stuff we have. And so some people were like really hard to leave, right? You got family and friends, and you're going to miss them. But some people, it's like, I can go without seeing you for a little while. It's all right, right? But we're so excited to be here, and we're just so excited. But we noticed that when we moved to Texas and we got everything moved into our little cozy apartment, I'm using the word cozy because it's a little one-bedroom apartment in Euless, but we noticed that some of the stuff didn't fit into our little cozy apartment, right? Some stuff had to go. And so we're playing that game of like, well, what do we need and what can we buy if we need a new one? And so it's not going to fit. So we had this little dresser. It's not a little dresser, it's a big dresser. There was no spot for it in the apartment anywhere. It didn't look good anywhere. It just took up a ton of space. And so we just didn't know what to do with it. So we're just like, well, I don't own a truck to go and donate it. And I don't know a ton of people yet who do own a truck. So we'll just take it downstairs and we'll put it in the dumpster and you just walk away like it's not our problem anymore, right? And we just had no problem throwing that away. And we just threw it away and we walked away. Not my problem anymore. And so who do we have to thank for this? IKEA, you're right. Yes, IKEA. They've even gone on record saying they're turning their customers into accomplices, right? So long gone are the days of owning your great-grandmother's hutch from 8 million years ago, and now you go to the store at IKEA, you buy the pieces in a box, you go home and you make it, and then you use it, and then it breaks, and then you don't fix it, right? When it breaks, you don't fix it, you just throw it away, and now you get to go shopping, and the whole process starts again. So when something's broken, we just throw it away. We don't fix it. Let's go shopping. Let's get a new one, right? Because there's not much value in it. We don't care. It's not our great-grandmother's hutch, like I said. We don't try and fix it. We get to go shopping. We get a new one. So we just kind of live in this throwaway, walk away type of culture. And this is especially true when things are difficult to deal with or people are difficult to deal with. You know what I'm talking about. So when Hannah and I moved to Texas, one of the most frustrating things was trying to get my car registered in the state of Texas. So frustrating. It took months, and I was driving illegal for a little while. But so in Illinois, you don't have to do that. As long as you pay taxes, you can drive whatever piece of junk you want down the road, and it's no problem. But it's probably a good law that you have that here, because you would see some just piles of junk on the side of the road. It's like, no one should ever drive that. But we moved here, and I was trying to get it registered, and apparently they won't pass the car during the inspection if there's a check engine light on. Right, and I knew what the problem was. It was this little problem that just affected my gas mileage. They told me back in Illinois that's what it was. Not a huge deal, right? But they're like, I'm sorry, but I just can't pass it with the check engine light on. That's a liability on us, and it could be a huge problem if we pass this, and we knew that was going on. So you're going to have to pay $800 to get this thing fixed. I was like, okay, all right. And so I'm just dealing with, this is a huge problem and I need to get it registered. So I just, several times throughout the process, going back to the inspection place and back, and now you need this, now you need this. I'm just ready to junk it. I'm just ready to throw it away, get a different car that maybe could get passed in Texas. I'm just ready to junk it. And you know what this is like. Like when people are difficult or something is difficult, you've been frustrated with someone or something, and you just feel like throwing it out. Maybe you've unfollowed someone or you've blocked someone because you just got sick of what they were posting, and you're just like, I don't have to deal with that anymore, right? Maybe it's someone at work, someone who's done you wrong. We have no problem just not talking to them for a while. Even in church, it's like, if we have a problem going on in the church or something gets difficult, it's like, oh, there's 20 more churches down the road I can just go to. We can just walk away. In traffic where you get those moments of like, oh, they've wronged me, they're in the wrong here. You kind of give them that look and then you just get to drive off. You get to walk away. And so we see this most clearly when we're facing some type of uncertainty. Maybe it's uncertainty about the future or fear about the future or fear about what's going to happen. And so some of my favorite classes in high school were Psychology 1 and 2. And I passed both of them, so if you need some help with psychological stuff, I'm your guy. I basically know what there is to know. I'm an expert. But one thing I recognize, and one of my favorite things to learn about, was what happens to your brain and how that affects your body when you're in a high-stress situation, when you're facing fear. It's fight or flight. Fight or flight. Two options there. I would argue there's a third option. Some people just freeze when they don't know what to do, right? Maybe that is a form of flight, but you see this most clearly when you scare someone. I love scaring people, and anyone who I've ever lived with has hated living with me because 2 to 3 times a week I will scare them. It's one of my pastimes. It's a hobby. I love doing that. And so in this moment, you really get a glimpse into how people react when it comes to fear, right? Some people, you've got to watch out. They'll give you a black eye or like you scare them and like they're gonna kick you or punch you or headbutt you. I remember my older brother, he actually gave me a black eye after I scared him, and I was like, what'd you do that for? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, it was just a response. He couldn't control it. So some people fight, but some people are a little different. Check out this video. That's Shannon Maupin. She's our Colleyville High School associate pastor. And I just decided to do a little experiment just to make sure I was right in that area. And you see how she responds. Some people respond like that, right? So fight or flight. So we kind of live in this walk away, throw away type of society. This is even more true when things are difficult. But let's consider the future of the church. Because there's a brand new generation breaking through full force. They're very different from past generations. They're not just younger millennials, and they are Generation Z. I don't know why they're called Generation Z. I don't know, they just don't know what to call them or anything, because we don't know what to do with them. So we don't know what to call them. And we're kind of running out of letters, so we got to get creative. So Generation Z, but they're very different from past generations. Very different. Like they were born between the years 1999 to 2015, and they make up about 69 to 70 million young people today, which is the largest generation in American history yet, the largest. They're also the most diverse generation in history. And so when we think about the next generation, here's just a few things that kind of describe them. They have instant access to whatever they want. They've got like a Google reflex, right? They have that. They can be entertained when they want and how they want. They're the most diverse generation in history, which is pretty cool. They're always connected, and they've grown up at a time when traditional morals have been in question. And so here's some difficulties facing Generation Z. Here's some difficulties, and this was done by a Barna research study this past year, all this information. The first difficulty is this: anxiety marks Generation Z. Anxiety, depression has skyrocketed in the last several years. Like they are the most over-connected, overwhelmed, and overcommitted generation in history. And that has just caused them a lot of angst, and they're living in a broken world they don't know how to unplug from. And it said this, they receive nearly 1,000 messages a day, which is just astonishing. So anxiety. Number 2 is addiction. They have an addictive pathology. Again, it's that thing of I can get what I want when I want to feel how I want. And so there was a report done. They asked the question, can you live? They asked this to members of Generation Z, young people. They said, can you live without your phone? And 50% said no. I cannot live without my phone. It's a must-have. And I would argue this is actually a little bit higher in my experience. So 50% said no, I can't live without my phone, and 100% of parents agreed, right? But porn addiction is at an all-time high. That's one of their pathologies. It's higher than ever. It's skyrocketed. Video game addiction, screen addiction, it kind of has marked this generation. So anxiety, addiction, and here's the last one. It's amoralism. One third of Generation Z says they're not really affiliated with any religious organization today. They don't belong to any religion. And so it's not that they're rejecting Christianity. It's just not on their radar. Like it's not really on the radar. And they've got this feeling they want to feel spiritual without being religious or kind of committing to one religion. So they've kind of created this sort of spiritual buffet where they can get what they want at the times they want it. And so you hear that phrase, spiritual but not religious. And so it's easier for them to say no to committing to one because they just want to keep their options open. And so if you're like me, this has caused a lot of fear because what marks this generation has been ubiquitous technology, addictive pathology, pluralistic ideology, superficial theology, and artificial methodology. So I just see that, and it creates a lot of fear in me and uncertainty. And what we've learned about fear and uncertainty, my tendency is to back off. Just kind of, I don't know what to do with them. I'm just going to walk away. So there's this song that plays throughout the series Stranger Things. It's a song. It's from the '80s. It's "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" And I didn't grow up in the '80s, but I've heard about it. It sounds like a great song. But here's some of the lines. It says, "If I go, there will be trouble. And if I stay, there will be double." So when it comes to the next generation, if we choose to engage with them and to invest in them, it's going to be messy. It's going to be difficult. Things will get messy. But if you stay, what could happen? If you don't do anything, what could happen? It to me, just seems like a lose-lose. Because if we choose to walk away and do nothing, then we may lose the next generation. They may not be discipled. And so I've heard this kind of just growing up, just this frightening reality is this. The church is only one generation away from going extinct. And so we've learned what humans tend to do when something is frightening or scary or overwhelming. We tend to fight what's going on. We shout at them. We get in a screaming match with the next generation, with young people, like we call out what they're doing wrong. And we hurt others and sometimes ourselves, or we just back off. We run away. So the tendency then is to see the weaknesses and the difficulties of the next generation, to throw our hands up and walk away. But what if I told you that there was an upside down perspective found in Scripture? What if I told you there was an upside down perspective found in Scripture? And we find that in the Gospel of Matthew. And at this point in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus has been teaching people, he's been healing people, his ministry is gaining momentum, and he's investing in 12 key leaders, we call the 12 disciples, and we see this movement growing. And really in this passage, we get a glimpse of Jesus' heart for people. And he kind of gives this sort of motivational speech to his key leaders. Here's what it says in Matthew chapter 9. It says, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Notice he didn't get frustrated with them and shout at them and fight with them. And he said to his disciples, he said, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his fields. So I just want to focus for a second on that word, compassion. What do you feel when I say that word compassion? You see the word passion in it, obviously. Maybe it's empathy. Maybe it's you feel sorry for someone. But really, in the original language, the New Testament was originally written in Greek. We kind of lose what that word means as it kind of gets translated to English. And so here's the Greek word, and it means exactly what it looks like. Here's the Greek word. Splanchnizomai. Can you say it? Ready? Say it with me. Splanchnizomai. Yeah, that's fun to say. Say that 5 times fast. But here's what that word means. It's a word that refers to your intestines, which some people that just got grossed out, right? It refers to your intestines and to your insides. And to that feeling you get when your insides turn, when you kind of get that pit in your stomach, when you see something. I know for me, I feel compassion, and I get that pit in my stomach when people order their steak well done. Just my heart breaks, right? Because you're just not going to experience what a good steak is meant to be experienced like, right? And so my heart breaks for that. But beyond that, I kind of get this feeling because I walk with and I talk with students every week, sometimes many days throughout the week. Students who feel harassed and helpless and confused. Students who seem caught in the middle of a messy divorce. Students who wrap their identities in getting into a certain school or in sports, and then they're wrecked once that's kind of taken off track. They don't know what to do. Life doesn't go the way they thought it would. Students who are crumbling in addiction. Students who face suicidal thoughts most nights. And the list goes on. The list goes on. And so Jesus says we have to see the difficulties and we have to go a layer deeper. We have to look at beneath the surface because here's what we see, but there's something else going on. It means looking and seeing with a different perspective. But it doesn't stop there. He doesn't call us just to compassion, to feel something. Compassion must inspire action. He calls us to do something. And a lot of us, we kind of just feel like we're stuck where we are, like we can't do anything about it, like we have nothing to offer when it comes to our families or our jobs or our schools, like there's nothing we can do. And we live like we're stuck. But Jesus calls us to live like we've been sent, especially to the next generation. So how do we live like we've been sent, especially to Generation Z, to the students? And here's that upside down perspective. Living sent to the next generation means seeing them as people in need, not problems to be avoided. It means seeing them as people in need, not problems to be avoided. I just ask, what would this look like for your marriage or for your relationships? What about in your jobs or where you work or in your schools? What about within our own church? It would mean dealing with the need, not avoiding what's difficult. It means dealing with difficult people and loving people who are hard to love. It means looking beneath the surface when it comes to students. It means listening to them, engaging with them, investing in them. In the show Stranger Things, there's this character at the beginning of the show who's kind of hard to like. Like he does grow on you though. But in the beginning, he's kind of this raggedy, chain smoking sheriff of Hawkins, and his name's Hopper. He's got kind of this jagged past, and there's Hopper right there. And you don't really like him at first. He kind of just feels stuck where he's at Hawkins. He's the sheriff. He doesn't really care about much. But that is until he gets word about some crazy things going on in Hawkins from kids. He hears that from kids. And then he even experiences some of that for himself. And so kind of his perspective shifts a little bit. He begins to listen to the kids. He engages with them. He finds himself on mission with them. There's actually a scene in the movie where Will got stuck in the upside down in the very first episode. And there's a scene where Will's mom, Joyce, and Hopper go into the upside down. And they've got their suits on, and I think I have a picture. Yeah, they've got their suits on, and they're in the upside down where it's messy, where things don't make sense, where it's not logical. But they decide to go into the upside down because the life of Will was worth it. His life was worth it. Hopper saw Will as a boy in need, not a problem to be avoided. He very well could have just swept this under the rug. Not my problem. I'm just going to walk away. Not my problem. I don't have to deal with this. But he didn't do that. He embodied this upside down perspective because here's the hope for the next generation. Here's what it says in Psalm 78. Here's the hope. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his mighty power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to our children, to their children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born, and they in turn will teach their own children. So each generation should set its hope anew on God. Should set its hope anew on God, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. So that's the hope. What can we do? How can we embody this upside down perspective? I think there's three things that we can do to embody this perspective. The first one is how we demonstrate rhythms. You see that word? We all have weekly rhythms and yearly rhythms and monthly rhythms that kind of just in our lives. But what about when it comes to faith? Here at Compass, we have opportunities for your students to be involved. We have opportunities for them to actually put their faith into practice. I know here at Compass NRH, they have weekly opportunities. I know they come to church here, and that at the 11 o'clock service, usually they go upstairs and they have their gathering there. Every Sunday night, they have house groups. So there are ways for them to be involved. And then there's yearly rhythms. One is our camp. Summer camp, and we have stuff for kids, preteen, junior high, and high school that are age appropriate, age specific, that cater to their specific needs. And so there are opportunities for them to get plugged in, but students need rhythms to help them practice their faith, because we've learned that we are what we repeatedly do. There's this formation of virtue, formation of being the people that like doing the right thing. So when I talk about rhythms, it's not just telling them the right thing to do, it's teaching them how to become the people who love doing the right thing. They need rhythms, daily time with God, time in scripture, a regular Sabbath, which they have no idea what that even means. The peace of Christ has not been ruling on our young people's hearts, which frightens me. So how can we demonstrate that to them? The second one is reasons. They need to know why they believe what they believe. Apologetics is not optional. They need help discovering reasonable responses to objections to their faith, because they just don't know how to respond sometimes. This means, this is the hard part, that they need a safe space to ask questions and to explore doubts. And for us not to get defensive or to be offensive when it comes to that, which I know I say that doesn't mean we water down the truth, but it means we get creative in how we explain those truths. They need a grown-up worldview, not a coloring book Jesus. They need reasons for what they believe and why they believe it. And the third one, I think this is the most important, is they need relationships. See, a lot of us, we kind of get the last two mixed up. We kind of talk at them, fight with them about truth and what to believe without establishing a solid foundation of a relationship, which is where we just kind of screwed up. And we've kind of just, again, they need wise relationships that are life-giving, that won't tear them down. Generation Z increasingly feels isolated and alone. They need good relationships with their parents, with their mentors, with their friends, relationships that go beneath the surface, that are authentic and that are vulnerable. Again, here at Compass, we have, I know here at NRH, there are house groups, and we do the same thing at Colleyville. We've got amazing house group, small group leaders. Sorry, that's a lot to say in one little sentence. But that just pour into our students, that open up their homes, they give them a meal or a snack, and they just say, come into our house, and we'll just love on you for a little bit, and we will teach you about scripture and about faith and some truths. But they start with them, with a relationship. And without them, ministry here wouldn't be possible. So as we kind of structure our ministries, and they even teach this in Bible college, and they said for small groups, you need one adult for every 5 students. So you can watch what's going on and, kind of just that surface level. You need one adult for every 5 students. But I'm finding with Generation Z, and even this was true for me, and maybe it was true for you, I need at least 5 adults who is pouring into my life other than my parents. My parents had a huge part, and I'm thankful for them, but if it wasn't for other adults in my life, I would not be where I am today. I think about my basketball coach, Coach Boker, who instilled hard work and integrity. He was an elder at my home church, and he just embodied what it means to live a life of faith in a specific context in sports, which was huge for me. And then there was one of my pastors growing up, his name was Joe, and he really walked with me through my parents' divorce. And I was at a time where I kind of felt caught in the middle, and he didn't, give me advice or anything. He just listened. He walked with me through that. And there was Cody, who was my youth pastor growing up. And Cody and I didn't have anything in common at all. We had nothing in common. Like he loved to skate and video games and some other things that I thought were nerdy, but he thought I was really nerdy because I just wanted to play sports and hang out with people who play sports and watch sports. So that to him, that was nerdy, right? But we had nothing in common. But he decided he was going to try to learn to love what I loved, which to me, that was huge. Because the one thing we had in common was Jesus and a love for Jesus that kind of united us in that way. And as I was exploring doubts in college about the Bible, about faith, about God, I had college professors who just who didn't, as I talked, they didn't recommend a book or they didn't, tell me this or this. I just needed a space to explore those doubts and to kind of dig deeper. And then after that, they would recommend books and help me through that. But without them, I don't know where I'd be. And I'm sure you can think of similar people in your own life. Someone who didn't walk away when they saw your mess, but they decided to walk with you and to talk with you and to be with you in that process. Someone who didn't see me as someone to be avoided, but someone who was in need and needed help. So my challenge is, are you willing to be one of the 5 for a student? Maybe you're a coach and you just need to embody Christ-like characteristics and what it means to live for Christ as you play sports. Maybe you're a teacher and just instilling principles in students that just seem foreign. Maybe as a parent, you need to reach out to other adults or you trust who could be good mentors to your students. Maybe it means being a mentor to one of your kids. Maybe it means getting plugged in to the life of the church, being a small group leader, being someone who is investing in students in the church. And I know we have opportunities for you. And I'm gonna call her out now. Alex, would you stand up? She's the NRH student director, and she's been, But she would love to talk to you about what it means to get plugged in and to invest with students. Maybe you're a student here today and you're just trying to find a way to get plugged in. And again, she'd be a great one to talk to. She'll be in next steps after the service. But they need someone to look at them as people in need, not problems to be avoided. Because this is the sort of upside down perspective God has demonstrated with us. Like he looked down, there was a need. He didn't avoid it, didn't walk away, but he engaged with us. When we turned our backs on him in the garden, he didn't condemn, he came looking for us. When Cain killed his brother Abel, he said, Cain, I know you've done this, but I'll protect you. You don't have to worry. When we turned our backs on God again, he said, I'll give you laws to guide you as you try to engage in a relationship with me. Then we turned our backs again. And then he sent prophets. He said, maybe they'll listen to people who will speak on my behalf, and they can speak on their behalf too. And again, we just didn't really listen. And then he said, here, I'll try this. I'll put them in captivity so they'll thirst for me and they'll hunger for me. And then finally he decided, he looked down and he said, I'm gonna go down there myself. And he sent his son Jesus, and he had him die on a cross. He saw the need of sin and shame and guilt and death that plagued our world, and he gave us a solution to that. He engaged with us. Here's what it says in Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He did something about it. He's never walked away, even if we deserve to be thrown away. He's always chased us. He's always seen us differently. He's always been the father chasing the prodigal. So are you willing to engage the next generation? Because I tell you, and you've seen it today, they are worth it. They are worth it. Like there's so much hope with them serving and them leading worship, and just they're capable of so much, and I'm so excited. But we have to be willing to engage them and invest in them. Would you pray with me? God, we just thank you so much for today. We thank you so much that when we turned our backs on you, you never turned your backs on us, that you always came chasing us, Father. God, I pray for the future of the church. I thank you that for 2,000 years, the state of the church has only gotten stronger and we've gotten bigger. That's only through your Spirit, Father. God, I pray for just some of the things plaguing Generation Z. I pray that anxiety would no longer be a reality. God, I pray if there's anyone struggling with anxiety, that they would get help. They would find someone to walk with them through that. God, I pray that they would find what it means to have peace. God, I pray for those facing any sort of addiction. God, I pray that wouldn't be our go-to to have a feel good, but we would seek you. God, I pray that we would have a solid understanding of truth and what Jesus meant when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one gets to the Father except through him. God, I pray that we would be creative, that we would be relational in how we communicate these truths, because again, the next generation, they're worth it, God. And you see that. God, I pray that this next generation, they would set their hope anew on you. But you call us to be the vessel, God. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.